the widening of Highway 321 has been a very dramatic episode in the life of this community, and it's been very trying, but I would call your attention to a statement that was made by one of our distinguished citizens, Susie Green, at a meeting the other day of the Historical Society. She said, just remember that local people were against the Blue Ridge Parkway being built. So it gives you some perspective about history. And I think we are indeed fortunate to have two very outstanding executives from the department with us today to tell you all the things that have been done and all the challenges that remain to finish this job that's so important to our area. The Transportation Board member for the High Country is Jim Palermo, and Jim has a very outstanding reputation not only here in the High Country but also in the Charlotte area as a person who gets things done. And he's dedicated to getting this done in a very good way. Also, our High Country engineer, divisional engineer here for the DOT is Mike Pettyjohn, one of the outstanding engineers in the Transportation Department in North Carolina. I am grateful for the efforts that you all have made as a result of our meeting last year at this time to speed up this project, and grateful to the town of Blowing Rock for relaxing some of the restrictions you had. And I'd like to recognize our mayor, J.B. Lawrence, is here, and our distinguished councilman, Jim Steele, is here with us as well. Jim, I see you back there. Glad you all are here. And our town manager, Scott Fogelman, here. So we appreciate everything you all are doing and all the help you've given on this project. Now, the way we're going to work this today, by agreement on the format, was that members of our association, the Blowing Rock Civic Association, submitted questions in advance of this meeting, which we then presented to our Department of Transportation people. And we thought this would work very well because this is not a presidential debate. We're not trying to get a gotcha question out there. What we wanted was definitive factual information, and we thought this gave our folks a great opportunity to get the facts out in the best possible manner. Also, we are not going to open up for comments or questions at the end of their presentations. What we would prefer you to do is to speak with them individually about any questions you have, and I think that's going to be more effective because a lot of the questions that come up on this are questions that may relate directly to you as an individual or to your individual situation more than generally. And the questions that we asked, I think, will cover most of the general questions that most of us would have, and there are some tough ones, and they're going to go through them with you today. So I'm very pleased to present to you at this time Jim Palermo and Mike Pettyjohn.
Thank you. My voice has not changed. So can you hear me okay? No? Do you want me to use this? Okay, I'll use this. Okay, thank you. I guess the motto for today is I wish this bleeping thing was done. And I would say something other than bleeping, but when I was younger, my mother washed my mouth out, and I've never forgotten that. So I'm going to say I wish this bleeping thing was done. That's your theme. It's our theme, too. And when we met last year at Blowing Rock Country Club, it was a good discussion. And it was an open discussion. It probably gave many of the folks who are experiencing the trauma that's involved with a highway project that is not a simple highway project. It's a very complex highway project. And it gave everybody an opportunity to express themselves. We appreciated that. We heard it. We listened. The most important thing, I think, from that is that we opened up our lines of communication even better. I mean, we had them. They existed. We worked the best way we could, but I think it's better now. It's better because we are able to tell you what's going on, tell you the challenges that we have as we continue to hear the challenges that the community has. I will tell you that since the time that we started conversation back in middle of last year, there have been numerous people, particularly with the acceleration of the Area 1, who have gone out of their way to thank many of us, both the local government as well as the state government, that the local government eased restrictions, gave us an opportunity to work longer hours. There's some pain to the longer hours. The tractor starts earlier, they work later. It's an inconvenience to businesses, to people. We understand that, but we got to get this done. And we have made every effort, and will continue to make every effort, to work with every business along the way that we are affecting. And I can tell you the businesses in Area 1 have to be smiling now because it's looking good. We're still working there because there's things that have to be tightened up. But we got 4 lanes of traffic moving. That's the important thing. And we're going to make the rest of it look absolutely spectacular. I promise you that. The rest of it going down to the Greek Park end, we're in high speed right now on this, but what you're going to see with Mike Pettyjohn's slides is that you have to do things in sequence. We have to get the wall along the country club in place, and they're working aggressively on that. And we intend on meeting targets that we're going to talk to you about today. Now, what George said is you submitted questions, and George gave us the option, if there's any question we don't want to answer, we don't have to answer it. We didn't throw anything out. So we're answering all the questions that we've been asked to answer. I think many questions that some of you still have in your mind will get answered with what we talk about today. So what Mike Pettyjohn is going to do is, from his computer, he's going to pop a slide up that has the question, and then we're going to have comments, and then I think between Mike, myself, or some of the staff that Mike will introduce in a second, we'll comment about some of those things, if it's appropriate. And if in the end we haven't answered anything, as George said, we'll be around, and hopefully we can, on a one-on-one basis, answer things that still are outstanding in your mind. There's some things, by the way, there may not be answers for, but we're trying to be as transparent as we can in giving you all the information that you need to know so that we can get this bleeping thing done, okay? So I promise you, we want it, you want it, the town of Blowing Rock wants it, and the town of Blowing Rock's a beautiful community. And please understand, too, that as we have worked on this project, not only have we been sensitive and worked hard with the businesses along the way to communicate, but we have worked hard with the Historic Society, with our local government, to make sure that when we finish this, it qualifies to be a picture in a magazine. And we have great respect for what you value so much in Blowing Rock, and we hope that we will make it even more beautiful. So with that, I'm going to ask Mike Pettyjohn, who is the division engineer for the 8 counties that are Division 11, to deal with, well, that's it.
Okay.
Deal with it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Palermo. Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Appreciate y'all having us here today. Do want to introduce the folks we have with us. We got Trent Beaver. He's our division construction engineer. He works in North Wilkesboro with me. We got Doug Eller. He is our district engineer, who his office is over the project as well as other projects in Watauga, Avery, and Caldwell counties. Also have David Uchiyama, our communications officer. He's standing in the back there. So that's who we got with us today. And I'm going to just jump right in and start answering the questions. I've got the questions that were asked. That's going to be the first about 20 slides. And then I got a few pictures that I want to make some comments on. So I'm going to do it over there. And they so kind of put a microphone over there. That way I can step through the slides from over there and not be blocking it either. First question, can you hear me? Okay. The first question was, how much was the original amount to complete the Highway 321 project from Tanger Shops on the Parkway to Blackberry Road? And as you can see, that was almost $66.5 million. At this point in time, with what we call supplemental agreements, a lot of people call it change orders, that overruns that we know we're going to have, we're expecting that price to actually be a little bit over 70 million is what we're expecting. So and I may talk about one other item later on when we come up. I am going to plan on talking about it later in the slides. The next slide was how much has been paid to date to the contractors for the Highway 321 widening project from Tanger Shops on the Parkway to Blackberry Road, and that's the entire length. And we paid it right at $52.4 million. So I like round numbers, so that's sure there's some odd cents in there, but 52.4, I figured that y'all just soon see that as the rest. Here is one of the questions, and I did flip questions 3 and 4 because they flowed better if I just flipped the order on them. It says, when will the project from Tanger to Green Hill Road be completed? Of course, Area 1, which is the area that we talked a lot about last year, that was substantially completed by definition to 4-lane pattern by July 4th. We were excited to get that. I hope everybody in here was excited to get that. There's a lot of hard work, time, and effort that went into doing it. Area 2, it says to Green Hill Road, that from Area 1 to Green Hill Road, that's all part of Area 2, and we're projecting to be substantially complete in the spring of 2017 on that. And then the big question is, when will we be completed totally? We're projecting the fall of 2017. I will go ahead and interject this one thing while we're saying projecting. One of the items that many of you are aware that we had a rock slide on that mountain section, I think it was in January. And even though those cut slopes are not part of the project, not part of what the contractors are responsible for, we do plan to have our experts go in there when they can get there to see if we need to do something to stabilize those slopes while we still have the resources we have available and the contractor with those, because that's very specialized work. At this time, we do not know if that's something we will do or not, but we would rather get that thing stabilized than in a year or two have to come in here and do some kind of maintenance work on a slope, even though it's not part of the project, stabilizing those slopes. It was never intended to be there. When will the section of the project from Green Hill Road to Blackberry be completed? We're continuing to work on that section as we work on the part between Area 1 and Green Hill. So again, we expect it that we're projecting fall of 2017. That we expect the part, and it's also another one of the questions, to be complete, substantially complete to Green Hill Road prior to then, but this part we're saying 2017, fall of that year. What is your definition of total completion of this project and parts of the project? Final completion to us, and this is one thing that we'll do all the way from Tanger all the way to the end. One of the last things we're going to do is we're going to come put that final layer of asphalt. We call it an inch, maybe inch and a half, because that will give us the finished product that we want. One, we don't want all that heavy construction equipment that's still going around riding over our final layer of pavement. So that will be the last thing, and then what we normally call our punch list, those items when we ride through says, nah, that don't look right, fix that, you know. Just like you is building a house. We do the same thing. And in our terminology, it is done when we take, right now, the contractor is kind of in control of the road. We take it over for maintenance is how we term that. And they are no longer responsible for any of the maintenance of any of those items. Why has the wall on the Blowing Rock Golf Course not been completed? Of course, we had over 40 walls on this entire project. In the last year, we have been concentrating significantly on Area 1, but that wall is now under construction. I do later on in the slide, I actually have a picture of some of the construction that's ongoing on that wall.
I'd just sort of comment a little bit here. Doing a wall is just simply doing a wall. There were a lot of people who had opinions about how that wall should look. Not all those opinions were the same. So we went through iteration after iteration. People said no. Some of that may have been different entities, and I'm not going to point to any entity, but it slowed us up in deciding what the wall would look like. The most important thing, and if you look at the walls, and I don't know how you feel about it, I think they look fantastic. There was a lot of effort put into making them look fantastic. And I just want you to know it took time. It slowed us up. Decision makers don't sometimes make decisions as fast as we would like, particularly if you have a lot of people giving their opinions. So point is, we're there. The walls look great. They will continue to look great. But it was not a simple task. I told George it's like herding feral cats. But we did it.
Are you convinced that all businesses and residents on the Highway 321 widening project will have good ingress and egress to their property from a technical, practical, and physical standpoint when the project is completed? Yes, we are. We feel like we're going to have good ingress and egress. We're actively working on those now in Area 1. We do ask if there is an issue that you see that we need to address, come tell us. I mean, we want to make it right. And one thing we really want to point out here, we've been very fortunate to be able to maintain access throughout the project to the businesses and residents. Not saying that they want some inconveniences, of course, but our contractor actually had the ability to shut the road down for 4 hours at a time, 2 days a week, and I don't know that they ever did that once. So we're really tickled with that and feel fortunate we've been able to maintain them. And like I say, if individual has one, come see one of us and about the issue with your driveway, we'll take a look at it and see what if there's something we can do to improve it. Would you please send us a current projection of the completion date of each of the remaining critical steps of this project for posting on our website? So this is a repeat of what some of the other questions were, but Area 1, it was substantially completed by July this year. Now, y'all do see some things going on down there. One thing that's probably going to be the most impact to traffic that we still got there is at Cliff Dwellers. From a construction structural standpoint, we had everything, it was complete. But I don't think any of us in here agreed that looked good. So we're actually having that rock sculpt to make that blend better with the wall that's adjacent to it, so that we've got the character that the community deserves there. So that'll probably be the greatest impact. We still got a little work there. At the very end, I don't know how many are familiar, there is a part of the greenway, part of what we're doing where the old road used to be. We got some work going on in there they'll be doing, but it should be very minimal impact to traffic. It's just more inside that where the old road bed was. Area 2, for the end of Area 1 to Green Hill, like we said before, substantially complete in spring of 17, and all the way to Blackberry, projected fall of 17, and same for the entire project. Last year, the town relaxed restrictions on the project work hours, but there still doesn't appear to be much work being done after 5 p.m. Why is that? Well, just a few facts on it. Contractors' crews have been working 6 days and in excess of 60 hours, weather permitting. Additional crews have been mobilized. Just give you one instance on that. We had a milestone we was trying to meet last fall. We was trying to get the road split at a certain time, and the walls were an issue. They're the ones that were across from the Samaritan's Purse, as to give you a general. Actually, working through our state construction office and with the contractor and other contractors in the state, they were actually wall crews, which is very specialized work pulled off NCDOT projects in the eastern part of the state, brought up here for a month, I think, to accelerate those walls. So things that may not meet the eye have taken place like that.
I think, and I told George this, the impact is that we accelerate this. The negative is there's other people who projects are slowed up as a result of the crews we've pulled off. But we understand how critical and important it is to get this done. So at the state level, the decision was made to pull those crews in, and it absolutely accelerated the process. And
numerous crews have worked extended hours since last summer, since we last met. A lot of times those crews are not noticeable because you'll see in some of the pictures, they may be working on a wall that is way down what we call a field slope, and when this thing's said and done, you're gonna see this much of the wall. But there may be 30 feet that's down there that's never gonna be seen because it goes off into looking off into the countryside there. But the kind of the basis of the question, the relaxed time restrictions from the town have allowed the crews to complete more work in fewer days, and we're very appreciative of everybody working together to be able to do that. Are there contractual and/or Board of Transportation directives that are impacting completion of the project? The short answer to that is no. I mean, the project is being done in accordance with the contracts, plans, and specifications. We do work within those we have worked within them to speed up where we could. And there's just some things construction-wise that you just got to do it that way for us to have the lasting product that we want.
Let me speak from the Department of Transportation Board's perspective. We have two board members, one being the chair, who have second residences in Blowing Rock. So, and one of those, specifically the chair, was very emphatic. He knows your feelings, he knows the community's feelings, he's part of it. I mean, he's ready for it to be done as well. His point was don't take shortcuts and compromise the end product just because of a date. So we have assured him that that has absolutely not been the case, and but we have a lot of interest. Nothing from the Board of Transportation's perspective has been said other than encouragement to get this done.
Would you add additional personnel to this project to speed up its completion? Additional crews and overtime have been authorized. And just one point, at a certain point, more people does not equate to more progress because a lot of what we're doing is very specialized. The duct bank that we talk about a lot, there's only certain people that can get that in there and do it correctly, because if it's not put in right, one of the great things that's going to end up with this project with all those utility lines that you're not going to see, they could not get them in there if it's not done correctly.
Everybody comfortable with it? Duct bank is, I see some nods. I used to think it was about ducks. And can you clarify that?
A duct bank, that is a lot of work that is so slow, has been challenging. It is, how many lines of conduit? 20-some lines of conduit that are being encased in concrete, and it ended up we had to put it in the middle of the road because we could not get it anywhere else. And in those conduit, that's where the utility companies are going to come back, and they're going to run their lines through that conduit. And you may not see all of them gone, but the vast majority of those utilities lines you see overhead are going to disappear because they're going to be running under the road. So
Blue Ridge is already pulling their lines through, even though the project's not completed. Even though the project's not completed, Blue Ridge has already started pulling their lines through the duct bank system.
okay. Has any subcontractor caused a slowdown in completion of the project? If so, what steps have been taken to correct this problem? No, DOT and the contractor, we've worked together to resolve all our construction issues. We feel like we've had a good working relationship. They've added subcontractors and stuff where it was feasible to speed up the project and where we could get them in and actually have room to work with others. So we couldn't ask for that to win any better that I know of. Have you been hindered by any slowness in obtaining building materials? No, we haven't had no problems with materials. Would you please improve the barrel barriers at critical points such as the food line access road to prevent dangerous confusion? We've tried to, Mr. Wilcox give us that comment even verbally whenever he handed us the rest, and we have looked to adjust to those. And the greatest thing is most of the barrels are gone now in Area 1, so hopefully that definitely reduces confusion. So, and if you do see something that seems confusing, just contact one of us. We'll be more than glad to adjust and try to make it sure it's clear, because sometimes working in this day in, day out, it may make sense to us, but it might not make sense to to somebody driving through. So,
George and I have in common our age, and we concluded that going through those barrels was not a simple process. And I don't know how you feel, George. I'm glad they're gone, and stay gone, George.
can anything be done to improve visibility and access to Norwood Circle? He also gave me this one verbally that day as well, and I went down there and looked at it. The short-term answer is the best thing we can do in the short term is try to keep that vegetation. The long-term answer, we will be in improving that as our construction progresses, because it's kind of the same issue that we had before we ever started. That intersection's in a tight curve, is just not very visible. The final outcome is it'll be a good improvement. In the interim, we're going to try to keep that vegetation knocked down to make it as safe as possible. We're pleased to note a significant recent increase in construction activity on the Norwood Circle to the Green Hill Road section of this project. Can we do anything to help you further expedite completion of this project? Well, obviously, we appreciate the offer. I think one of the best things, though, as far as the group goes, we have opened up positive channels of communication. And so I think that is really, at this time, that's really our best bet, because we don't know any reason why we can't progress on in that section as we've got started right now.
And we appreciate the positive comments. That's the best thing that you can do. Thank you.
What do you consider to be your most outstanding achievements to date on this project? I guess we could have looked at this from a lot of different angles, but this is some numbers. So I'm going to go through them quickly. But we've constructed 94,000 square feet of retaining walls. That's significant in our world. 78,000 tons of asphalt have been placed. 2.5 miles of water line relocated, and 2.1 miles of that duct bank that we was talking about. And I know it says 10 miles of conduit, but I don't think that number is right, because there's over 20 some pieces of conduit in that 2 mile. So I think that number is actually higher. And obviously, one of the biggies is getting the multiple lanes between 321 Business South and Tanker Outlets. We consider that a huge accomplishment. So, what are your biggest challenges remaining to complete the project? As with any project, especially here in the mountains, weather is always a factor. Last fall, we had an extremely wet fall, if y'all will remember. The winter wasn't bad, but the fall, all that rain really impacted us, and some of that rain went into the winter. Fortunately, it wasn't snow and ice, or a lot of it wasn't. So, and then also, we still want to continue to balance the needs of being able for people to get in and out of business, to get through and do what they need to do with our expanded, broadened work schedule, to make sure that all works comes together for the benefit of the project, as well as everybody trying to do business day in and day out here. And what's the best way for an individual or business to communicate specific questions or concerns to you? We have a dedicated phone line for this project. Many of you have seen Caprice Cheek. She will be the one that answers the phone. But that don't mean that it wouldn't be Doug or somebody else that comes answer your question. But we found out we felt like that was the most efficient way to funnel all our communication to that, is on a day in, day out basis. But anytime we're available to talk. But if you contact her, she's going to get it to the right person that needs to look at it. And a lot of times that may just be one of our inspectors on the job that can take care of it. Now I just want to kind of go through some pictures. We won't spend a lot of time, but obviously we were very happy when we was able to get this opened up. It makes it seem like there's not as much traffic as it used to be when you get all these lanes open. Here again, this is another picture. Like I say, look at them lines there. Hopefully you ain't going to see all them lines here shortly, or whenever the utility companies get to doing all that. There again, another picture of the 4-lane with more utility lines up there. The intersection down there at 321 Business North. As Mr. Palermo has already pointed out, we're pretty proud of these walls. These are going to be some of the most outstanding walls. I don't think there's any place in North Carolina say they got any better looking walls than what we got. But if you see this, this wall here is the one across from in front of Samaritan's Purse. I think that wall is about entirely complete. As far as I know, there's nothing else left to do this one. This one's over across from Norwood Circle. Is that correct, Doug? And this is a wall that you probably don't see much of because it's built on what we call the field side of the road, where it's just down where you don't see, because you're going to see this little top part on that side. But there again, there's a lot of work, and it's tedious work to be able to get down in there with equipment and place those walls in there. Something kind of want to point out, a year ago, and this is more of our walls, but if you look at it, and when we got to looking at it, that didn't really look that good. It didn't look finished. So one of the things we done, spent a lot of time on this spring that wasn't part of the original part. We came in here and we finished, made these walls look finished. So you can see that's where they was working on it, and that's the end result. I think again, that's Samaritan Purse wall, right? This wall is the one at the country club. It's under construction now. Of course, the road's right there in the middle, and that's the wall on the other side. But you see all this right here, this is actually where we just been stabilizing the existing road and the existing earth so that we can come over here and put the actual wall in. The wall that will look like the wall that, as far as the columns all like at Chatola. And it'll have the same pattern as the wall across from it. So they're at the point they've got stabilized. They're at the point of what we call starting the wall at this point, setting baskets. This is down at Chatola. Actually, we already had a sidewalk on the upper side. It looks like we got enough room where you will be able to put sidewalk there on the lower side, which will help tie into the greenway part there in front of Chatola where the old road bed was. This is at Cliff Dwellers. This is where we're talking about doing that work to dress that up and make it look like we feel like it should look for this area. I'm sure a lot of folks are concerned about their driveway tie-ins, and we've been working hard on those to get them done. Here's just a few examples of them, and I'm not going to spend much time and say if somebody has specific concern, come see one of us. Some more driveway tie-ins.
Mike, have we not hired extra contractors to do the tie-ins?
Yes, they have brought in actually additional contractor, different, even though Maymead themselves is their primary business is putting down asphalt. They have actually brought in 2 different asphalt companies to do a lot of this work. They brought in one that's primarily doing the driveways, and another one is they doing driveways, also 2 that are doing driveways, so to accelerate that. All right. This time I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Palermo.
Okay. Thank you. And please understand, and I repeat this, we've opened our lines of communication. I see Scott. Scott and I communicate frequently. I'm not an engineer, but I have access to the best. So we are able to stay close to local government through the town manager, town council, certainly the mayor. George and I and Mike have established a good dialogue. We will keep that dialogue going for the duration of the project. And we think good communication, good, reasonable, positive communication is mandatory from our standpoint, and it certainly is from yours as people who are ultimately paying for these processes. So with that, I say thank you. We can assemble more questions at some point in time, and happy to answer them.
Jim and Mike, thank you so much. I think this has been a good, concise presentation. Let's give them a round of applause. Betsy.
The alarm, apparently it's illegal to park on the street up here, and he agreed to give you a warning.
Okay, all right.
Warning, I warn.
All right. Important announcement, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Thanks so much for all the good work you're doing out there. Keep it up and keep the press on, and we'll appreciate it so much. Thank you for being here, and please, if you have individual questions, be sure and ask these gentlemen. I've had good experience with them. They're very responsive to individuals and individual concerns, and I urge you to contact them and talk with them while you can. There will be a film of this presentation on the BR Civic Association website. It's www.brcivic.com, and that'll include contact information if you have any more specific questions. Again, thank you so much and have a great afternoon.